1. If the war happened between India-Pakistan, this time destruction will be more than your imagination. What is the condition of bordered villages who first feel the heat of war? Instead of spending on expensive and destructive war, can India spend it on scientific techniques to seal the border? Why India doesn't have an Israeli option when it comes to Pakistan? What is the lesson that India should learn from Israel? What our reprisal policy essentially needed, while Pakistan continuing to dare India? Isn't it time to launch economic sanctions on Pakistan? GS Paper 3, Internal Security, Defense. What is the condition of bordered villages who first feel the heat of war? Punjab has 553-kilometer long international border with Pakistan and 1,871 villages are notified as border area villages. Life in the border villages has always been very different. All the houses in the villages were made of mud because everybody feared there could be war anytime. If the war happens, economic loss will be far more than the human casualties. Now in 21st century, with both countries having advanced nuclear weapons and technology, if the war happened between India-Pak, this time destruction will be more than your imagination. Many channels are advocating war with Pakistan. But they should understand that if war happens now, Delhi and Lahore would be the first cities to face the heat of war. Instead of spending on expensive and destructive war, can India spend it on scientific techniques to seal the border? Uri attack happened because of infiltration from border with Pakistan. The Indian government should invest money on scientific techniques to seal the border. Now if the science has made possible the vigilance under the deep sea, why is it not impossible to seal the border on mountains? It is better to spend money on such techniques than on war. There is a need to confront terrorism. There is a tactical way to do this. There is an international, diplomatic way to do this. Why India doesn't have an Israeli option when it comes to Pakistan? Every time India suffers a major terror attack from across the border, there is an immediate call for India to adopt Israel's policy of reprisal. The two countries share similar challenges on many fronts, including cross-border terrorism. Israel has the expertise, because it has been under threat. We can work together on the solution. India should seek the Israel expertise for strengthening border fencing. What is the lesson that India should learn from Israel? The lesson for India, which faces a much tougher opponent and worse terrain, is that ground attacks are only possible if New Delhi is ready to face casualties and prisoners among Indian troops. Israeli forces often incurred heavy casualties in these attacks as it was militarily on par with its Arab neighbors. The attacks also spun out of control, devolving into massacres. What our reprisal policy essentially needed, while Pakistan continuing to dare India. It must be embedded in a larger diplomatic and security policy. Allowed to drift apart, such executions would become little more than killing without purpose. A consensus is needed across the political and bureaucratic spectrum on the necessity of such a policy. Without that, the necessary long-term investment in intelligence, equipment, training and strategizing that is needed will never happen. The policy will never be sustainable. An assassination must never be allowed to drift away from a legal process, even if the process lies behind closed doors. A system of weighing evidence, passing sentence and civilian control is important. Otherwise, the executions become just another form of state-sponsored terror and the assassins could become a threat to the government that created them. We do not have the power to prevent the murders of orchard workers or families while they are asleep, but we have the power to set a high price for our blood. Isn't it time to launch economic sanctions on Pakistan? With Pakistan continuing to dare India, India has joined the chorus to launch an all-out economic offensive against Pakistan. Absolutely, economic sanctions are the first sanctions which are required to be done before you take any offensive measures across the borders as a reply to their attack. Currently, Indo-Pak trade stands at estimated $4 billion, where Pakistan enjoys the most favored nation status while trading with India. So when Pakistan exports goods like leather, cement, chemicals, fruits and vegetables to India, it enjoys status of MFN. Now the government is reviewing the most favored nation status given to Pakistan that was given 20 years back. With global support rallying for India, the economic isolation of Pakistan is another strategy in the works.